was so fascinating about your story. You grew up in Arkansas and you grew up with racist parents, you said.
I just grew up in a world where we thought we were better.
There's this accident that happens in your life. You get a splinter. That injury leads to you becoming addicted to pain pills.
And I got up to taking about 70 pills a day at the end.
Whoa.
August 2011, I was arrested and I was convicted in January 2012, and I was sentenced to 13 years in prison.
What was your judgment against Black people before you went into prison?
I don't want to look in the mirror and be accountable for being white trash. It's just easier to blame it on you. That's what racism looked like in a very simplistic term for me.
But then you meet this man named Larry.
I had a black man teach me what racism was.
Because now you're seeing, wait a minute, I had all these thoughts about Black people and their contributions to culture or lack thereof, and now you're going in these deep dives and you're finding out, wait a minute, you start to uncover, wait a minute, I've been sold a lie. Welcome to Vaughn and Powers Talks, where we don't just scratch the surface, we dive deep into the lives of the world's most influential change makers. I'm your host, Brandi Harvey. Now today, y'all, we got a good one. We got a white man here to talk about Black history. Amen. GW Sedberry Jr. is living proof that redemption has a voice. Once a drug addict and 10-time convicted felon, he's now rewriting his story and history itself. After shedding the racist ideology he was taught, George turned his pain into purpose. Today, he's become one of the most unlikely voices, amplifying Black American history. Having visited over 40 HBCUs and universities, his lectures and viral videos, viewed more than 300 million times, are challenging perceptions, confronting bias, and sparking a new generation of conversation about truth, humanity, and transformation. Vaughn and Powers Talks. Welcome GW Sedberry Jr. to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Come on, Junior. You said your daddy's name is
George.
Is George. So you got to go by GW.
All my life until social media, and it became George.
Yeah.
By accident.
The white guy.
White George.
White George. I didn't want to start off with White George, but you are White George.
I'm George. I'm white, yeah.
Here's what's so fascinating about your story. You grew up in Arkansas, and you grew up with racist parents, you said. You grew up with ideology that was taught to you, ingrained in you, about who you were and who Black people were in society and in culture.
It's a lot of my friends in the world I grew up in were very similar. You know, growing up, we didn't call it racist, obviously, as white people. We used the word prejudice. And so there were, some of the family was real prejudice, some was a little prejudice, some were average prejudice. We have scales. I don't know if they do this. White people have scales for this stuff. But yeah, I just grew up in a world where we thought we were better.
I mean, talk about we thought we were better, but then there's this accident that happens in your life. You get a splinter.
Yeah, right here on this middle finger, ironically.
Not in the middle finger, George.
Yeah, the middle, my favorite finger. I am left-handed, though, so, this one, yes. I got a splinter, and I got something called cellulitis, was a bacteria which lodged in my arm right there, and it blew up over several days, and I had to have emergency surgery. And in recovering from that surgery, they gave me 600 hydrocodone, which I took religiously. And at the end of that 600, I felt really sick, and I knew where I could buy pills cheap. It wasn't a big deal, so I just kept taking them. And I found that these pills are amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that injury leads to you becoming addicted to pain pills.
Absolutely.
And this addiction to pain pills really sets you up on this journey for criminal activity, because then you become really good at being a jewelry thief.
Sadly, yes. I could feed my habit about the first 9 years of my relationship. I always had great jobs, mortgage industry, radio industry. When the recession started to hit, everything started to change, right? And I no longer had the means to pay for it. So one day, as opposed to fighting withdrawal, I decided to steal something. And I made a lot of money doing it. It was quick, clean, and easy. And I thought, okay, it's a one-off. And then as time went on and my habit continued to grow, my money went down, I turned to being a thief.
So how long was your addiction?
About 10 years.
So 10 years of addiction to pain medication. And you said that when we were talking off camera, that these pills were $1 a pill.
Back then, yeah.
Back then.
Not anymore.
But you stay consistent on the
Hydrocodone.
hydrocodone.
Yeah, I would do the Percocets on occasion when I had them. I mean, could get them. That's the only other alternative. But I didn't go. Fentanyl wasn't around. And thank God I would be dead if fentanyl were around. I have no doubt I'd be dead.
Yeah.
I didn't go to heroin. I didn't go to OxyContin. I just stayed within those pill range.
Yeah.
And I got up to taking about 70 pills a day at the end.
Whoa.
Yeah.
70 pills a day.
I dry swallowed 10 milligram pills at the police station after I'd been arrested. I found them in my pocket, and I knew that would be another felony for possession. So I dry swallowed 10, and my adrenaline was so high I barely felt them. That was my level of addiction.
70 pills a day.
And at $5 a pill, you start doing the math, you said it was between $8,000 and $10,000 a month habit.
Wow. And so now you become a jewelry thief, and by what year were you convicted?
2011, August 2011, I was arrested and I was convicted in January 2012, and I was sentenced to 13 years in prison.
13 years in prison, but you only served
right at three total.
years. 3 years.
Arkansas is unique. Well, and they have their own way. Back then, you would serve 2 months for every year you were sentenced for nonviolent or property crimes, provided that you had great behavior. Now, on top of that, they have what's called a 90-day early release and a 1-year release for overcrowding. And I made that 1-year release, so I got out about 10 months early.
Oh, wow.
That I would have done.
I mean, but here's the thing that happens in prison. And you told me off camera that, one, you got clean in prison, which I was really like, when I was in pre-production, I was like, now, most people don't get clean in prison. They continue their drug habit in prison.
It costs money to do drugs in prison.
Yeah.
Drugs are usually better in prison than the street, believe it or not. Way more expensive, but yeah, they're there. But you got to afford it. Most people can't.
Yeah.
So in county jail, I had an ability to buy a pain pill about 3 months after I got there, and I turned it down. And I knew I was going to be okay when I turned it down. That I just went through all that detox.
Wow, for that 3 months.
For the first 3 months, because it's like the flu for the first 60 days. It hurts, your bones hurt, your mind, your chemicals are messed up. It's a horrible feeling, right? But I can't be the victim to the circumstances I created either. But when I got through it and I had that opportunity to buy that pill, I thought about it. Boy, did I think about it. And when I said no, I knew I'm going to be okay.
Wow. But then you meet this man named Larry in the prison.
My first cellmate in prison.
Yeah. And he starts asking you questions about your beliefs.
Yes. He asked me, he goes, "Are you racist?" I said, "Yeah, pretty much." He goes, "Can I ask you some questions about that?" Sure. We were on lockdown 23-1. So all Larry and I could do were talk. And Larry was a cool guy. I mean, Larry was an easy guy to talk to. I was answering his questions, but I was getting to ask him what it's like to be a black man in America. And I feel like that's when my education and that conversation started, right? Because I started asking a lot of questions, and I didn't really care if they were polished questions or not. And he answered them and he gave me perspective. And I stepped out of my perception and into somebody else's perspective. And that conversation fundamentally started to shift the way I look at things.
Yeah.
I have a near eidetic memory. I can remember things like people can't imagine. I cannot remember Larry's last name. It begins with a W. It's like I just cannot remember Larry's last name.
Well, we go down just, with black people's last name, Williams, Watson.
And it wasn't uncommon. It wasn't uncommon.
Wilkins,
I would love to see Larry. I would love to meet up and have a conversation with him. But
I mean, I have to ask you though, when you get your cellmate of Larry, are you angry that you're in this cell with this black man?
Oh God, no.
So you weren't like a belligerent racist.
No, I was definitely closet racist.
Okay, closet racist.
I've never called somebody the N-word. Now, have I ever used the N-word? Absolutely. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. But I'm not the guy out calling you in the parking lot. I wore it privately. It was a judgment I placed on people that don't look like me. And so that judgment affected how I went about who I would choose to do business with or interact with. That would manifest itself in all kinds of ways. But no, I just thought I was superior.
What was your judgment against black people before you went into prison?
Best way to put it. Let's say I live in a neighborhood and I've got a few cars up on blocks and I hadn't mowed the yard in 3 months, right? And I got a couple of dogs running around. You and your family move into up to the end of the street. Now I'm going to my neighbors and going, here goes my property value. Now we got black folks in our neighborhood now. Because I don't want to look in the mirror and be accountable for being white trash. It's just easier to blame it on you. That's what racism looked like in a very simplistic term for me.
You didn't want to be accountable for being white trash.
I didn't. I could blame you for everything in society,
Yeah.
and I don't have to face up to a lot of times reality, right? And not to go on this rabbit hole, but we're very propagandized, right? Betsy Ross didn't sew the flag. We don't know who did. Paul Revere wasn't a great hero on that one night. A 16-year-old girl wrote more. But I realized how I've been told history affected me and my views, right? From slavery to Black Americans are not as smart or dumb, all the tropes. And it wasn't true.
Yeah.
It wasn't true at all. Some of the smartest black men I've ever seen were in prison.
Yeah. So then you have this conversation with Larry. You begin to challenge and question your own beliefs. When is this turning point that happens while you're in prison?
There is no light switch that got flipped. Okay, I met Larry, had the interaction, and the thing I most took away from this conversation, he said, your grandmother would love me. I'm like, yeah, Larry, you're a great guy. And she goes, no, she'd love me just on a human level. And I'm like, in agreeing. He goes,
Yeah.
but once she separates me from black culture, it's different. Because she can love me and hate Black America. And I'm like, I started to understand that. He goes, she doesn't understand it, and she fears what she doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And when you fear things, you do all kinds of crazy things in reaction to it. He goes, it's never about me. It's this thing out there.
Yeah.
And that began to change. I had a black man teach me what racism was in my own people, right? So I began to psychoanalyze and become introspective about how it weaved its web in my life. But it didn't start to change until well after prison, because I went back on a parole violation. I've been back twice. I went back 10 months for the second time. And I feel like I went in more racist than I'd ever been, or I came out the first time.
So this is, you get out in 2014.
When I get out the first time.
And you are like, I've done some time. I've had these questions and conversation with the Larry, but
I ain't giving it up yet.
Okay.
Went back on a parole violation, had a different experience this time. And I hung out with a lot of black dudes who were lifers, and they taught me about psychology of life. I feel like I got a PhD from hanging around some of those guys. We played Scrabble every day. And so we talk and we converse and, we'd be philosophical. But when I got out of prison the second time, I paroled out to my uncle's house, right? That man stood strong by me. And ironically, the man I've never seen a racist bone in his body, ever.
This is your uncle.
Oh, yeah, I went to high school with the Little Rock Nine also.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a weird juxtaposition. But I remember when I got out and I was working, and I would come home every day, and there was two black women sitting on their porch. Now, the neighborhood I paroled into is 99% non-white. It is probably 15% Hispanic, 84% black, and two white families. And my uncle's one of them. But these two ladies sat there, and I would wave every day I went by, and they would just look at me. And it became a game for me, right? How long? I think it was 3 or 4 months before they waved. And when they waved, they never stopped waving. And that single moment triggered something in me. I don't know why I remember that so fondly, but I worked for their wave. And I earned it, right? And I began to understand how credibility and trust looks like.
So then what starts you on this journey of uncovering and discovering Black history?
I told a story about John H. Johnson. Now, John H. Johnson, if you don't know, is the man who founded Jet and Ebony magazine. He was born in Arkansas City, Arkansas in 1918. Same area of the state my grandmother was born in. So she told me that story. And she's like, do you know a black man from Arkansas was the first black man to be on the Forbes 400 list of richest Americans? I'm like, what? And then I looked it up, right? So I remember this story forever. So I told it on TikTok, and a few 100,000 views, and I didn't get a lot of hate for it. I'm like, I know more of these stories. So I just started to dig into stories I grew up with, Central High School crisis, et cetera. And as I got into it, it fed my soul in a way I can't explain.
Of learning Black history facts.
It was teaching me more about my own life and world because I was learning it through a different perspective.
Because now you're seeing, wait a minute, I had all these thoughts about Black people and their contributions to culture or lack thereof. And now you're going in these deep dives and you're finding out, wait a minute, I don't have no ironing board, no washing machine, no caller ID, no computer monitor, no home security system, no ironing board, no
GPS,
no
no
refrigeration,
no
no
Jack Daniel's
potato
whiskey.
chips,
Harley Davidson wouldn't be a brand. Cadillac wouldn't be a brand if it weren't for Black America.
no stoplights.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you start to uncover, wait a minute, I've been sold a lie. Because I've been told, wait a minute, white folks have invented everything. And then you start to find out black folks was behind all these inventions.
You know, it's even deeper than that. I looked at how society spoke about black Americans. Like, whenever you see a black suspect or white suspect on the news, that makes sense to identify. Black suspect is in custody. Why does the race matter anymore? And I noticed it's the tiny little things. And I know people are like, well, that's just the way it is. It's the tiny nuances I started to realize that reinforce. Like, we used to play a game. If we saw a black family walking across the road, there's 100 points, right? That was something as a kid. You were literally normalizing running over people, right? And my black friends will say we did that to white people all the time too. So I found it. I was like, okay.
What they do?
We have a game. If we saw a black man and his wife and 2 kids, the thing was like, if you run over him, it's X amount of points.
George, in my whole life, I have never have I ever.
Oh, you ought to hear the jokes back. My friends tell me about white people, how when they see us out, I'm like, yeah, I'm not arguing, but I've had that conversation.
I ain't arguing. I just say never heard this, George. So okay, so you.
But it normalized it, right? As a kid, and I'm not saying it was fun or right, but I never realized how that affected me.
Wow.
Because you're invalidating and minimizing the life of other people, right? By playing a game of running over them.
Wow. Never have I ever. I'm today years old, George. Today years old. Never heard it.
That was a common.
So then I have to ask you, what was? I get John C. Johnson of Johnson Publishing, who's the founder, creator of Ebony and Jet. That was one of those stories that had a shift in your mind and the light bulb kind of went off. Was there another story that said, "Wait a minute, I'm onto something bigger. It's bigger than me"?
Booker T. Washington is probably the man that most kicked off a pathway in my brain I didn't know I had. Booker T. Washington is probably one of the most incredible Americans we don't talk about. And I've seen that name on schools all over this country, and I did not know who he was, nor had I taken the time to learn. Once I did.
You said you read the book Up From Slavery while you were in prison.
I did. Just on an odd, because I read a book a day or more. So it was just one of those, why not, let's see. It wasn't profound to me at the time, other than because I hadn't gained perspective yet about who he was. But it opened a door in my mind to want to understand who he was. And that was, and in case you don't know, Booker T. Washington was born in Hellsford, Virginia, had moved to West Virginia, was working in a coal mine as a teenager. And his mom would only let him go to school if he would work a shift before school because he needed money. The other miners saw how brilliant he was and said, you need to go to college. So he set out and walked 500 miles across the state of Virginia to the Hampton School. Later become the Hampton Institute, had to beg his way in, had no money, no proof of who he was, ended up with the highest GPA there for over 100 years. And as we went on to, start Tuskegee University, it changed our world. So one 16-year-old boy willing to walk 500 miles for an education profoundly changed the way I looked at things.
What did it teach you about yourself when you read that book?
I didn't know what it meant to sacrifice for something that important to me. I didn't know how far somebody would go to build a life for themselves. Booker T never had a last name. It was just Booker. And Taliaferro he picked on his own because it was a common surname in Virginia. He chose Washington because of the respect people gave to the name of George Washington in the city. They didn't even know his date of birth until after he died. And this kid wanted to be educated so bad. Walking across Virginia in the early 60s as a young black, he could lose his life anywhere. I walked the first 500 miles when I walked across America to know what it felt like to be him.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Was that the catalyst that said, I want to start walking across the country to these HBCUs?
That's what made me decide I know I needed to. They gave me the why, is why I did it. I mean, but in prison, the idea came to me. Being in solitary confinement, not solitary, but I was in diagnostics, which is a solitary cell. Lights never went off for 30 days. And I was losing my grip on reality, and I could feel it.
You didn't have lights for 30 days?
No, lights never went off.
Oh, went off?
Because somebody in the barracks was on suicide watch, so all the lights stayed on.
Oh, wow.
And it was just, and breakfast is at 2:30 in the morning, and supper's at 2:30 in the afternoon. Like, it's just it's a rough existence. You have nothing, no Bible. So I started walking in my head. Just imagining everywhere I've ever been, then I started making it up. Places, what streets would look like, people I would meet as a way to keep my sanity. And that was an escape mechanism in prison when things were just overwhelming, I could just go back into my head and just start walking. I never
Wow.
knew it would turn into something.
That's bigger than you. I mean, the walking has turned into something that really has garnered so much. I mean, when you look at your social media, I mean, over 300 million views across platforms of people not only coming to learn Black history from you, but also to see your journey, because you started your journey at the Apollo Theater, correct? You started walking from there because you did a lecture there. You did a talk at the Apollo, right?
Yes, ma'am. Back in 2023. Wow. I never realized that night would change my life.
What happened that night?
I got to speak on stage, but there were people in the audience that I didn't know at the time that would later help me open doors for me along the way. My understanding is the Apollo didn't want me speaking there. The people there didn't think it was a good idea to have a white guy come out, somebody that's unknown, and talk about HBCUs. But my friend Albert, who produces the HBC New York Classic, when he told me, he goes, "You're going to be disruptive, and that's what I want." I'm like, okay, let's do it. And then I also wore Fawn Weaver. She's been on here before, right?
Yeah.
I wore Uncle Nearest on stage for the first time ever. And then I had one of her tour guides come on stage with me and do his art at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And so it was just, I looked out of my hotel room the night before across Manhattan and realized I'm speaking on stage next night at one of the most historic stages in America, especially that's still standing and operating. People dream all their life to come to New York and talk on any stage. And my first professional speaking gig ever was the Apollo.
Wow.
I was about to pee myself. Mouth was dry, leg was shaking.
Yeah. And so this was the beginning to say, I'm going to set out on this journey for people to really understand the work of HBCUs, the power and the value of HBCUs, but also what you've learned along your journey.
Yeah. HBCUs, I grew up around 4 of them in Little Rock, and there's no reason for me to ever have considered their value, right? There was no intersection in my life. So I just went on through life. But as I started researching Black American history stories, historically Black colleges and universities kept coming up, right? This was the common schools where all these people doing amazing things went. And I just like Alabama State, Alabama. I was like, Arkansas has played some of these teams where I'm from. I'm like, we played HBCUs before, UAPB in Arkansas. So there's a familiarity, but what I started to discover about the community is it's just unique. It's this bubble within America that is so good. It is so much that's right with America is in this bubble, and it never gets talked about. And you see I stumble forwards. I have such strong feelings. For instance, if I were to hire you, right, you attended Hampton University. If I saw it on your resume, knowing what I know, I'm like, that is very intriguing to me, because I know when I need to hire somebody else, I can come to you and say, Brandi, do you know somebody? You're like, you know what I do in my network.
Yeah.
You saved me so much headache. And I know if you're a good hire, you're probably going to hopefully bring in another one. People don't see those values there. I could teach anybody to do a job, right? And so if I see Morehouse or Miles, I understand where they came from. I understand the education they got. I know what I'm working with.
Yeah.
I just wish more people would see that.
And you believe that's an elevated experience.
Yeah. Okay, for instance, when Georgia and Florida fans see each other somewhere, they're not going SEC, but Morehouse and Howard run into each other. It's what's going on, my guy. It's family. You might be cousins and you might argue, but you're family.
About who's better.
And then you add the Divine Nine to it.
Yeah.
It's just a whole nother level.
So what has been one of the most intriguing or fascinating stories that you've learned in your journey of uncovering Black American history?
That's a hard one, but I'm probably going to say one of my favorite is, oh boy, that's a toss-up. I'm going to go with Frederick McKinley Jones, a man who was orphaned at 11 years old and had a 6th grade education, who changed our world with mechanical refrigeration. It's how you get frozen foods in your stores. He partnered with Dr. Charles Drew to help create these units they would drop into World War II so soldiers could receive blood on the field, saving tens of thousands of lives. This man had a incredibly brilliant life, uber successful, and nobody knows about it.
Yeah. You one of the stories that has gone viral that you talked about is Black Americans saving Cadillac. Yeah.
I love this because I told that story. What people don't know is on that stage were about 100 men and women who were just out of prison and jails into reentry programs. That's who the audience was. And there were several white supremacists, like Nazi swastikas tattooed on them in that crowd.
Wow.
Now, these are gentlemen who's given up their life. but they still bore the scars of where they came from in that brotherhood. So I told that story, and there were 3 black girls in the crowd that night. That was it. It was all white. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And so I told the story, and they loved it.
Yeah.
Just proving that we can unite over history. It doesn't divide us.
You got to tell the story, though, George.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew this, but in 19th Cadillac, let me start over. Okay. Cadillac was founded, Leland Harvey, I can't believe his last name. Well, he bought the company from Henry Ford. It was Henry Ford's second failed company. And if you don't know, Cadillac is named for Antoine de la Mothe Cadillac, who founded what would later become the city of Detroit. So Cadillac sales dropped at the beginning of the Great Depression. When it hit, Cadillac was a luxury automaker. Most cars at the time were between $300 and $500. Cadillac started at $2,900 and went up to $9,700. It was a luxury item that nobody could afford. So they lost like 80-something% of their sales over the next 5 years. And they were desperate. And a man named Nicholas Drystad came into the board meeting where they were shutting Cadillac down and said, I think I can save the company. And they're like, yeah, right. How? And he's like, we don't sell to anybody but white people. And he goes, I tour dealerships all over in the South. The black American elite, the judges, doctors, attorneys, they're buying Cadillacs. And they're like, but we don't sell to black people. He's like, I know. They're paying the white man $300 to go buy the car for them. And so that's the transaction. He goes, we're missing out. So they decided in 1934 Cadillac would not discriminate on who they sold cars to. And sales went up 70% in that 1 year. And a lot of people ask, well, if it's the Great Depression, how come black Americans had the money and white folks didn't? It's because banks didn't like black people's money. And when the banks failed, a lot of people in my community lost everything. And I always say this, a friend of mine's grandfather had told him, the only reason I knew we were in the Great Depression because a white man was going through my trash. And I was like, wow, never thought about it. So Cadillac became one of the very first companies to hire black Americans for things outside the factory, design, innovation, et cetera. So I tell that story because Cadillac transcends race, gender, sexuality. Doesn't matter who you are or what you are. If you love Cadillac, there is a giant community that loves you.
Yeah.
And that was but we wouldn't know it had black America not saved them.
Yeah. I love that story because there are so many different stories that you tell on your social media pages. One of which was like your first video that goes viral on TikTok. And that was when you start going through your house. You're going through your house.
Oh, yeah.
That was your first video. Yeah.
Ooh. See, this is where I say this is, I wish I was this talented and creative. This is kind of where I know God plays a big role because I'm not this good. I remember my ex at the time, she went out somewhere that afternoon. I'm like, I got an idea for a video. Hey, white people. It's hard to, you can't be racist after seeing this. And that apparently caught everybody's attention. So I just did household items invented by black Americans. And I made it kind of a little controversial the way I was speaking. And so I edited it and posted it before she got home. She's like, oh, God, what did you do? What did you do? And it was like 5 million views that first week on TikTok. And I only had 20,000 followers at the time. And it just skyrocketed.
Yeah. Now, at the time, were you dating a black woman?
I've never dated a black woman.
Really?
No.
Oh, wow.
I did one girlfriend with biracial kids, and her youngest lived with us for the 3.5 years I was with her. So that was a big lesson for me too. I got to understand young black girls, their hair, it taught me things.
So very interesting, White George, because you go by White George. White George, you don't date black women.
No, I just never have.
Yeah. Okay. Because you got videos about the AKAs on your page, the Deltas on your page. You went to people at all the homecomings. You've been invited to the cookout, George. Okay, they let you come to the cookout. They let you eat the potato salad, even bring some sometimes. Okay, and I'm so surprised. Yeah,
it just hasn't.
It ain't happened like that.
Well, for the last few years, I was in a relationship, and then she took my dog when we broke up. So I've been intentionally single because the dog broke my heart.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I've just been kind of, intentionally single.
Okay. So the thing about you is every weekend you're at a different homecoming, you're at a different HBCU. And I asked you off camera, what's your favorite homecoming? And you said you can't say because you haven't been to all of them yet. But out of the ones that you've been to, what has been your best HBCU homecoming experience?
It's a 3-way tie.
Okay.
Between Tennessee State, Morehouse or Spellhouse, and South Carolina State University.
And you were repping South Carolina State. You recently just went there. I saw on your Instagram page.
Yeah, I know, and I'm sunburned and I'm scared. I'm like peeling, and I wanted to look amazing for you today.
Yeah, I don't see that you're peeling. Yeah.
I put on aloe vera. I was like, I hope I'm not shining on
No,
camera.
you're looking good, George. Yeah.
And I notice all your guests are usually well dressed, but this is my uniform, and I just
Yeah, you stick to the script. So
consistent.
why do you say that those would be your top 3? Is it because of the fellowship that you had, the experience, the hospitality?
Well, number one, it's the only 3 I've been to so far, so I've got
Really?
3 homecomings. You said homecomings or campuses?
Oh, okay.
Homecomings?
So
You'll never-
homecomings, you've only been to 3.
3, correct.
But you've been to over 43
campuses.
43 campuses.
And
Okay.
every one are different, and there is no way I could possibly say one is better than the other or one is worse than the other. People don't realize how beautiful Bennett College is, the all-girls school.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gorgeous. Johnson C. Smith, gorgeous campuses. You know, and Howard is the mecca. Howard's energy is insane the way it is. Miles College is one of just the coolest HBCUs I've been to that you've never heard of. Or PLC in Detroit. Nobody knows about that amazing college. It's free. It's a free HBCU, free room and board when you're there.
Oh, wow.
It's master classes. E. Scott Morris, the head of shoe design, has designed shoes for Emmitt Smith, Shaq, did all the Air Zooms. He teaches you how to do the shoes. They have partners with Nike, Foot Locker, and they bring in students with creative ideas, and they partner with brands.
Yeah.
That's an HBCU in Detroit.
Have you, when you've gone to these universities, what is the reception that you get when you're on campus?
Oh, it's fantastic. In the beginning, I snuck on the campuses in the summer when no one was there just to tell their stories. And so I got a different way of learning because no one was there teaching me. I had to educate myself. So it's been a slow progression for me, just kind of guerrilla style, to now going in and speaking with the administration. It's evolved, but it's also helped my depth of understanding.
Yeah, your depth of understanding is when people see you online, are they recognizing you as an ally, or do people say this is a bit of a cultural appropriation?
Oh, no. Overwhelmingly, people understand I'm an ally or advocate for what I do. I don't get much hate. You know, the other thing is people think I'm profiting off this. If people saw that I make $0 from Instagram, zero.
Nobody does.
I made $38 on TikTok last month because TikTok's dead. But if they could see that I hustle, do different things to be able to fund and survive doing what I do. I don't own anything. I literally have a storage unit in Atlanta. That is what I own.
I saw on your page you posted like these are my belongings. And I was like, okay, well, how is this man surviving? How is he making money?
Last year, I slept in my truck a lot.
Wow.
Doing it. But I raise money. I teach people how to build their platforms, how to storytell, how to create videos around it. And I don't sell courses, but it's more of a private, bespoke thing that I do hands-on, one-on-one, so people can understand how to tell stories and not waste their time on social media.
Yeah. Would you want to eventually be an educator at an HBCU and teaching maybe history or some sort of African American studies course?
I would like some version of that. Absolutely. That would be an honor to get to do that. I don't know what that would look like, keeping me parked for a period of time, but yeah, that would be insanely cool to me.
Yeah. Because I have to wonder, what do you look as like the end game for this as a storyteller, as a keeper of, Black history? What are you looking to do with this?
I want to continue to help other platforms. There's other creators I've met that I've reached out to that are on their way up because no one really did that for me. And so I reach out to a lot. How can I continue to uplift their voices, teach them shortcuts that I've learned the hard way that saves them a lot of time and money? That's one way I'm doing it. My big goal is to find a way to put 1,000 kids through HBCUs on full rides.
Oh, nice.
And so that's probably a $50-60 million proposition at minimum. So everything I think I do now in my life, networking, et cetera, is I am working to figure out a way to pull that off.
Yeah. You said networking. What are the spaces that you are really moving into, or some spaces that you would like to be in to continue this work and this mission?
I've got... I get to go to a lot of NASCAR because a friend of mine's a Grambling grad who owns a NASCAR team. So I've gotten into where I'm working and pulling businesses into this space because a lot of people don't realize NASCAR is way more diverse than people realize, and they did not shy away from DEI either.
Yeah.
Or whatever we're going to call it these days, is that word is burned. NASCAR, obviously the HBCU space. A lot of it comes with museums and history, but I was up at the CBC, and then I met 15 congressmen last week. And one of the things I want to start pushing for is fair housing legislation for felons in Georgia, non-sexual, non-violent, that after a 3-year span or 5-year, you can't discriminate against us on housing anymore. We've paid our debt.
Yeah.
So even though I'm doing state level, I'm getting a lot of congressmen who said I'll write letters in support of that. Because if I can do it in Georgia, I can do it federally.
Yeah.
So that's one of the spaces I'm trying to move into. And then I meet so many interesting people just like you. And so when I have a chance to connect people, then that just really makes me feel like I did something.
Yeah. I mean, you're in this space of storytelling. What do you wish a story, or is there a story that hasn't been told that you want to tell?
A personal pet project I'm working on, I just don't know when I'm going to drop it, is how my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, the dynasty, was literally built with HBCU players. About 25% of that entire 70s teams came from HBCUs.
Oh, wow.
And then, and so I've had lunch with I've met a few of them from the team. And yeah, that's one of the stories I want to tell, that if people realize how involved they are. Okay, I'm stalling because I'm trying to think of a good story that I want to tell. Another one, I don't know how I want to do it, but how Black America saved Harley Davidson is something I've been going over for a long time, and it seems simple, but I don't know if you remember the Easy Rider movie. It had the chopper with the American flag on the gas tank. It's easily one of the most iconic pictures of a motorcycle ever, and that was designed by 2 black gentlemen in Southern California. Now, the producers of the movies had a beef with them and left them out of everything. And so they got no credit, even though they're the ones that kicked off that Southern California chopper craze, which took over the motorcycle industry, saving Harley.
I mean, when you think about our buying power as Black people, $1 trillion buying power in this country, one of top 20 in the world, I believe.
1.5 trillion.
Yeah. So when we think about buying power, and we think about, you've given 2 stories already of our economic value to this land that we call home of America, between Cadillac, between Harley Davidson. Is there something you wish Black people understood about their power in this country that hasn't quite been realized?
I think Black America realized the power of unity. There's a lot of forces that act on Black America to divide it. Look at politics. Black America is so politicized and commercialized at every election by either party. I think that if Black America came together almost in monolithic movements, you could move the needle. If they just universally said, we're tired of this and we're changing things, you would move the needle. It's too big of an economic impact not to.
Yeah. And you see this. Where do you feel the disconnect is when you're traveling around to these HBCUs? Where do you think there's the disconnect in these environments?
I think we're so disconnected now, and it's easy to blame social media, but society we're very disconnected. You would agree, right? We think we're closer, but I think we're further apart than ever. We've all become about the individual and not about the collective. You and I are both humans. We're brothers and sisters in Christ. We're separated by only a few bloodlines and melanin, which is really not important, but we're still the same. But in most people's world, it is me and that is you, right? If you're winning, I'm losing. We have this, I don't want to say selfish because this applies to everybody, but this mentality, I don't want to say divisive. I'm trying to find a better word. I used to be this way, where it was what I wanted, what I needed, what I thought. I thought everybody should think the way I should think, and you know how destructive that is. And now that I've learned to step out of it, I see a lot of people still in that, and we can never come together that way. And white people get upset when I say Black America has been under attack for a very long time, hundreds of years before we even knew to define it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how you overcome it. I don't know what kind of cataclysmic event you need to unite people like that. I don't know. I mean, my own culture has so many problems that I don't know that I could speak on.
Yeah. What do you think has been, you've transformed your mind and your beliefs, and what do you think has been the biggest what's played the biggest role in you shifting your mindset and being able to see people differently?
My relationship with God. I grew up very conservative. I loved Ronald Reagan, thought he was great. It broke my heart to find out he wasn't. That took that one hard because I believed for so long. But I grew up very conservative, never MAGA. I supported our current president in 16, never owned a red hat. I did in 2020 also because, again, I bought into a lot. But when he lost, I started to change things. And that's when my relationship with Christ really started to strengthen. And I got more out of church and into the Bible. That helped change it. But the more I became closer to God and the more I began to work on myself, the further I got away from some of my conservative values. And I went straight, I always say the middle. But when I realized Jesus is the most woke person to ever walk this earth, I realized I want to be woke. I want to care about other things that are way more important that don't deal with me. Dr. Martin Luther King said, the moment we become we become silent about the things that matter, our life begins to end. And that has resonated with me forever. And so as my faith increased and my relationship strengthened, and I got into the Word of God that told me that, love God first and love your neighbor as yourself. How you love the least, how you treat the least of me is how you would treat Christ. We are supposed to welcome foreigners in our land and feed them and clothe them. And granted, there are boundaries, yeah, but this stuff's insane. We're not doing any of those things. And so my relationship started to dramatically affect how I live my life and what's important to me. And it's not stuff anymore. And it's not, I don't know, it's people. It's all I care about are the relationships. So
Yeah.
that relationship, I couldn't have done it. I didn't have the courage to stop being a racist. I didn't have the strength to do it on my own. I'm not.
I mean, and this is recent changes because when we think about you being in prison, 2014 going back to prison, 2015 coming out. So in this last decade, this has really been this transformation that's happened over the last 10 years. And we think about beliefs over the last 5 years, right? Because you said you identified with a lot of the ideas of Trump in 2016 and 2020, and you had those beliefs that were kind of ingrained.
Yeah, again, because I didn't know how to think for myself. And I'm going to say this, there's some friends I have that I grew up that I love very much, love them. But a few of them have gone off the MAGA cult. And I'm always going to love them like a brother because of who they've been to me. But I don't have a relationship anymore with them either. But I also realize these are people that I know their character, and they are acting so uncharacteristic of themselves, like it doesn't make sense. So I feel blessed that I got out when I did. Because I think I would easily have been susceptible to this nonsense had I not had a big shift in my life.
Yeah. Do you attribute a lot of this to the fact that Black people are very warm and inviting, and we tend to love on people who don't feel loved on, and we invite people in as a culture?
I don't think people understand what it's like to go to a cultural event in Black America. The amount of love and energy, and when you begin to experience it, the things you see with your own eyes, it begins to change, right? Used to, I'd see a bunch of Black students dancing, and I would be like, oh God, here we go. I would have these thoughts. Now, I'm like, these are some of the next biggest and brightest minds. They're 18, 19, 20, and they're just having fun. Like, it started to change the way I saw things, but I have been loved on. I've been shown so much mercy and grace. And I think because of the fact I decided to go out and show up in Black America to learn has been one of the greatest blessings to me ever. I get treated way better than I deserve.
You get treated way better than you deserve. You know that we would not have that same welcoming response when we go into spaces that are predominantly white, though. You know that.
I have been in rooms with all white people and one Black American walk in and you feel the energy change.
Yeah.
Energy change.
Yeah.
I have walked in at Hampton. The Qs were doing their crossing over, and I think I might have been the only white face in that room, and that gym was packed. But hey, what's up?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're here for a reason. You just didn't wander in here. So, yeah, everybody was. But, yeah, the opposite's not true, of course.
Yeah. Do you feel culturally white people have been taught to hate and Black people have been taught to love?
I think Black people have been taught to love to survive.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Love is the one thing that you can do that can't be taken away from you, that ultimately will help you survive. So Yeah, I think. I think there's cultural differences. Obviously, we were taught to hate. I didn't come out of the womb. You know, I don't sit and blame my parents because they were taught by people that they
Yeah.
loved and trusted, and they were taught by people. So, and my dad changed. I never even realized that he changed until he died. My
Yeah, I
friends
heard you
told me.
tell this story about your father. Yeah.
And I love my dad. I had one of the greatest fathers I think anybody could have. My friends would agree. And the last few years of his life, he had brain cancer several times. And so last few years of his life,
He had brain cancer several times?
3 times.
Wow.
Yeah. 1986. Okay. If you'll let me. Brain cancer is the greatest gift God has ever given me or my family. My dad's brain cancer. Greatest gift, hands down. My dad drove a truck for Walmart. He was never home. He cut in late Friday night, left early Sunday morning. That's all I saw of my dad for years.
Wow.
So he was taking speed to stay awake, right? Wife and 3 kids at home. So he'd had a seizure. They went in the hospital. He had a brain tumor the size of a lemon. It was glioblastoma. They gave him a year to live. Did the surgeries, radiation. I got spent my spinal meningitis that December. House burned down that January while I'm in the hospital, and dads are still recovering from brain surgery. So my dad's now disabled, and it took a few years to get his mind back to where we knew how to work with it, because after that massive trauma to the head, his personality was very different. So my dad, who was gone all the time, was at every football practice, every football game, taking my sister to her cheerleading practice. He's going to stuff with my older sister. My dad was there every single day for everything, unless it was deer season, then he was a no-show. But he was diagnosed with colon cancer in 2000. He was diagnosed with brain cancer again in 2002. He was stage 4 melanoma in 2006, and glioblastoma again in 2010. And he passed in 2011 after the surgery. But the girl I dated with biracial kids, he used to come over every Monday night and sit on the couch with young Jesse, and they would just talk. He adored that girl. And he told me interracial marriage is wrong. He told me this in 2007 or 8. He loved that kid. I watched that man just melt around that girl
Wow.
for almost a year every Monday night. So at his funeral, some guys reached out to me that used to work for us. They're black guys. He goes, "Your dad's the least racist white person I ever met." I'm like, what?
Are we talking about the same dad?
He said, "Your dad treated me like a man. He spoke to me like a man." And because he would give me the shirt off his back. He goes, "Your dad never made me feel anything less than who I was."
But he was a closet.
No, my dad changed. When we stopped saying the N-word, my dad told me to stop saying it years and years ago. Like, we don't say that word anymore, boy. Yes, sir. My little sister was against it. My little sister penetrated my dad's mind about that. It ain't cool to say.
Yeah.
And so once my dad said it, we stopped saying it.
Yeah. I mean, as many black people as you around all the time, George. Maybe that's a part of the subconscious, right? Of being told that interracial marriage and relationship is wrong. And so maybe part of that is still, in your mind a little bit.
No, I'm subconscious bias is the thing I'm most focused on now, because people ask, could I ever go back? No, it's not. It's not like a switch you just turn off and stop doing. It's a level of enlightenment that you can't go back.
You can't unknow.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
You can't unknow it. But going back, no, and plus I wouldn't want to. I was an asshole. And I don't ever want to be that again.
Yeah.
And my life is so much better when I got rid of the weight of the hate.
Ooh, that is good. My life is so much better now that I got rid of the weight of the hate. That's good.
It was eating my soul when you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. George, so good. As we begin to close out this interview, one word you are committed to in this season of your life.
Vulnerability.
Why?
I have learned that it's okay to be vulnerable. I have learned to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I feel like if I can continue to be vulnerable, then other people realize it's okay to be that too.
So good. GW Sedberry Jr., it is my pleasure. It was my pleasure to sit down and learn from you today. Such a wonderful, wonderful story of transformation. Vaughn Powers Talks, another good one for the books. Be sure to share this with someone who needs a little more vulnerability in their life to be transformed from the inside out. Until next time, I'm your girl, Brandi Harvey. Eat well, give a damn, move your body every single day. Peace.